Oh boy, did this league just get interesting. Biggest week of the season so far, no doubt. Week 8 had scoring, had upsets. It had the KFC striking back. It had underdogs coming through. It had cream pies, humble pies being handed out. It had GM tweet beef. We are in well and truly. I think it was Jadon, our guest on today's show. No introduction needed for that, no announcement. But he said, you can tell we get into the business end of the season now, and I have to agree that was a very poignant comment, because we really are at the business end now. This was an explosive week, and hopefully I'm welcoming back, skyrocketing viewers, hopefully, here on the Power Rankings. We got a packed show for you today. Interview is going to go off. Going to try something never before done here on the Power Rankings. We'll see how that goes. I still don't know how it's going to go, but I hope well. And let's dive into these rankings. Start off with our boy Juju's Toy Boys, of course, top again. Big win. This was the only one that wasn't really an upset, even in a week where there's topsy-turvy results. League been turned on its head. These guys still rise above those upsets and deliver another win. 154 points to 134. Good game, but they get the W over the Dubs and Tuds, and Wilman just owns this guy, Matthew Turvey. The head-to-head is now 12-5 in Wilman's favour. They always beat the Turvey organisations, and it was the same again here. 12-5, 154 points. They go into the lead outright now. 6-2, the only team at 6-2, and I think they've already got the bye on lock. But the GM came out and said if he beats Lloyd this week, his closest competitor in the KFC, then he believes he's got it on lock as well. So that to look forward to next week. Don't see any reason why they wouldn't go and beat SFL. And you just look down their team. Goff's got right in recent weeks. You now look at that QB tandem, Goff, Deshaun. Are there many better than that? Yeah, probably Prescott, Mahomes when they're both active. But with Goff returning to form of last year, that's a good a duo as any. Still problems at RB. Eckler and Jacobs both putting 9 points each. Nothing special, but then he's got his WRs, his big boys. Hopkins, Julio turned in good scores, and then once again, the difference was the kicker D. Even without his kicker, brought in Dan Bailey. That was a great streamer for a 1 week. 15 points, and then Pat's D again, 21 points, 36 points from the kicker and D. Compare that to the other side that only had 20. Isn't bad, but 36, and that was virtually the difference between the teams. Wall at 8, Bobby Woods 5. Bits and pieces, not much on their bench, but another 150, another impressive performance. These guys are by far and away the favourites now. Number 2 in our rankings now, and like I said, this has been a crazy week, shock results, and honestly, don't know who to put at number 2. It's been a very hard week to set the rankings, the hardest ever, because let's look at last week's number 2. Dinner at Dorsia. Well, no, they've got to drop down. But then all the other 5 and 2 sides, Kim Jong-fun, took another L, smashed, actually. Pingers, smashed by SFL. Dubs and Tuds, lost. So, what do? I can't keep Dorsia at 2. I don't want to put up people that have just taken an L, particularly an embarrassing L. So, yeah. Do I chuck Kiddle up there? I have considered it. Do I chuck SFL up there? Again, I've had to consider it because what do you do in this situation? And what I've decided to do is something that we've never seen done before here on the Power Rankings. Number 2 is a vacant spot. It's just filled with nothingness. There is a gap here between the Toy Boys and the rest of the league. And I'm leaving the 2nd spot in the rankings vacant this week. Shock. Okay, so here we are at number 3 in the rankings. Joint 3rd in the rankings, we have the Pingers and the Dubs and Tuds. Now, Pingers, they stay at 3 from last week. Purely they're a non-mover because, there was just no candidates really to move above them. They're lucky to stay at 3 because this was a big loss. They lost 118 to 160 to SFL. Now, SFL were losing record coming into this week, 3 and 4. Their 3 wins were Bedell's, Kiddle, Slingers. So they don't beat good teams. They beat another bad team this week in the Pingers, it looks like, because this was not close. Suffolk absolutely smashing them. On the other side, Dubs and Tuds, I've just moved them up because if you look at those 5 and 2 sides, like I said, all took the L this week. Their loss was by far the least damaging. I mean, they lost to the Toy Boys. They got 134, which is a better score than they have been getting recently. Only lost by 20. You kind of expect to lose that one. Pingers will still have Toy Boys to play. King Jong Fun, smashed by Slingers. Pingers, smashed by SFL. Dorsia, embarrassed at the hands, not embarrassed by Bedell's, but embarrassed themselves in front of Bedell's. Least damaging loss without doubt is Dubs and Tuds, but a loss nonetheless. So that's why they're in at 3 here with the Pingers. Dubs and Tuds, another huge day for their 2 running backs. And we're going to see kind of 2 rosters kind of very different to each other here. Like Dubs and Tuds' undoubted strength is those running backs. When Alvin's out, it's absolutely no problem. Latavius Murray, is there a better backup running back? I mean, this guy can handle a full workload. He can catch, he can run. 32 points, absolutely smashing it for the 2nd week running. Latavius Money. Start calling him Latavius Money. Dalvin Cook, 25 points. So 2 big RBs, absolutely flying out. Rest of the team, not so much. It was a nice little play they made on Ryan Tannehill. They had bad matchups for Carson Wentz. Brought Tannehill in. That was a good move. And we saw wholesale changes with their WR roster. 3 wide receivers they drafted: Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Williams, Curtis Samuel. Lost patience with them this week. The whole receivers core out the door this week. Brought in Corey Davis, brought in DJ Moore. In the short term, still the same results. I think Corey Davis was thrown in. He had a disastrous 1.9. I think Emmanuel Sanders scored 10 in his first start in Niners, and I think Mike Williams had about 9 as well. Curtis Samuel was low score. So it's not like he cost himself the week by making those changes. There weren't enough points there. But yeah, still has got nothing really of any significance at receiver. And that was the difference between the teams, really. Just nothing at receiver. Look over at Pingers. Very different story on their roster. Their weakness, Dubs and Tud's strength, RB. Weakness on the Pingers roster is RB. Lev Bell hasn't scored 20 points since week 1. Hasn't scored 15 points since week 2. Bust. Sony Michel, 7. Bust. He traded for David Johnson. David Johnson's now on the shelf. He's handcuffed him with Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is now on the shelf. He's got nothing at running back of any significance, and that's the big hole in this team. He had a good day at receiver. There are his strengths. Kenny Golladay has been a very nice pickup. Odd week for him last week, only getting 2 when Marvin Jones went off, but he was back at it this week. 25 points. Michael Thomas can't guard Mike. 21 again, top receiver in the game. But yeah, he needs something at running back because 118 points isn't getting it done. Bad week for Brissett, 9 points. Cortland Sutton, bit of a down week as well, 8 points. But yeah, needs something at running back because at the moment they've got nothing. They've got nothing of any significance to speak of. But they were speaking of quite a lot in the media this week. Leaked DMs between the two GMs, Lloyd Phillips and Joe O'B. We know Joe O'B always has a lot to say. He is a bit of a trash talker, and he was giving it some before this matchup. I'm going to ruin your Sunday, and this kind of rhetoric, and he's ended. Certainly finished. Here we are on Tuesday or Wednesday as you're watching this, and he's got egg all over his face. Lloydie really let him have it. A big win for Lloyd. Takes the overall between these two sides to 6 and 10 in the favour of Joe O'B. 6 and 10. So, next week, game of the week, undoubtedly, Pingers, dinner at Dorsia. This LFC title race is really hotting up again. Got 4 teams at 5 and 3, and they're all going to be playing each other over the closing weeks of the season. Obviously, Kiddle is even trying to get into the mix. I don't know if he's in the championship mix, in the LFC title mix, but he's definitely could be back in the mix for a playoff spot. He's going to be playing all these guys as well, so we're going to get lots of these LFC head-to-heads as they, one of these 5 and 3 teams is going to get a first round bye, and these head-to-heads, we've got one of them next week, Pingers Dorsia. 2 teams reeling. If we go back earlier in this season, believe it was a win. It was a win for the Pingers. Pingers beat Jadon earlier on the season. Can they do the double over them? And that would be a huge step for them towards that LFC title. Number 4 on our list will be visited in a second, but I did miss something I just want to mention about Dubs and Tuds. Dubs and Tuds, you can't really let them get away with this one. Held that first waiver priority. This was the week they finally used it on Ty Johnson. Kerryon goes down. Ty Johnson's meant to be a hot pickup off the waivers. A lot of GMs were after him. That's why you hold on to this pick, so you can get that juicy fruit from your top priority. They finally pulled the trigger on Ty Johnson, and he didn't even start the game for the Lions. It was a man called Carson, got most of the touches. Ty Johnson was also involved with Paul Perkins and J.D. McKissick. Jesus Christ, I mean, it's an absolute backfield disaster there. I think, yeah, he had a couple of offers out there. He could have traded him while the valley was hot. He thought, wait 1 week and it's going to get even hotter. But he's wasted that top waiver priority that he's held for so long. And, yeah, that's, you know, we got to think about how many other waiver pickups did he miss out on because he didn't believe they were worth spending the top priority on. So, yeah, big error there from the GM. Ty Johnson, 1 week bust. I'm pretty sure he'll be out the door come Thursday. So, yeah, poor move there from the Dubs and Tuds GM. Now, down to number 4 on our list, where we find Lloyd Phillips, SFL, in at 4. And as we just spoke, they had a big week in more ways than one. But let's start with their results. This was a must-win for them. They couldn't afford another week like the past couple with the LFC boys just pulling away from them. Them getting into what looked like possibly a straight dogfight with punts over 6th place. They needed a big win this week and they got it in style. And I just like everything about it. The score 160. Cooper Kupp going off for 31 points. Run CMC back doing his thing, 28 points, 25 points, sorry. But it was just the way the GM came out. He came out quite ballsy. You know, they were going to turn this around. And he was taking on all comers in the media this week as a tweet beef with Jake Lewis, no less. You know, usually quite passive, usually, you know, doesn't get into it with anyone, sits at the back, takes his medicine. But Lloyd Phillips came out, took an unprovoked shot. It's got to be said. There was no real need for just a general QB chat. And then Jake is sticking with Dalton. He's dying on that hill for Dalton. Jake Lewis replies, he's got more points on the season than Josh Allen and 5 less than Minshew. Obviously, these are members of SFL's stable of young boys, which he likes to go on about. Then, you know, other owners start piling in. Joe O.B. always wants a piece. George Willman tries to get involved, wants a piece. But it really just continued between Lloyd and Jake Lewis. They've got potential, match-winning potential, says Lloyd. Jake says if he's going to take any fantasy advice from the Phillips, it isn't going to be you, pal. You know, pretty scathing from Jake Lewis. You know, Lloyd's now, slightly backtracking now. You know, trying to... He's probably been a bit caught off guard by Jake Lewis coming out. Jerby's still obviously having his tuppence worth in there. Then Lloyd gets it together, he fires back. Come on, Jake, you shouldn't be throwing shade on anyone. I'm not even sure you've made the playoffs. We know Jake has made the playoffs once, Lloyd, but it's a fair point. Who are you? And well, you're historically the worst franchise in the league. That's what his point he's making there. Jake Lewis fires back. Lloyd's pretending to be an NFL insider. So it got pretty nasty here between these two GMs, but this is what you're going to see this time of year, and that's when, James Donovan, had the final word on the matter. You can tell it's business time. It certainly was. And it was business time for Lloyd Phillips all week, because, obviously he came out, said he was going to turn his season around. Then he gets into it with Jake Lewis, and he had something on the side with with his opponents of this week. OB was coming out and saying he was going to end his season this Sunday. Get there what the other quote was now is I'm gonna ruin your Sunday, I'm gonna end your season. That was the basic lines from Joe OB. But Lloyd then let his team take over and do the talking. And as I said, this was a vital win, and I like teams when they come out when they're in a must-win situation and they back it up with a big win. Absolutely pummeled the Pingers. Like I said, Cup, McCaffrey, Minshew had a big day, 23. Josh Allen had 17. Interestingly, Dalton, just for the record, also had 17. Juju had a big day, 18. So yeah, some good scores there on the roster for Suck for Luck. And they're back at 500, at 4-4, but they've got a difficult matchup next week against the Toy Boys, which again just highlights how important this win was. If they'd lost this one, they would have been going into a game against the Toy Boys 3-5. That could easily have become 3-6. Now they're at least going at 4-4, bit of momentum, half a chance. And, if they lose, they're only back at 4-5. With Hedgie losing this week, it's not a disaster. But yeah, big win. Down to number 5 on our list, and it's a non-mover from last week. It's Kim Jong-fun, but this team, are they collapsing before our eyes? Like I said, flying high, 5-1. Then they had that disaster week last week, which we spoke about, and they didn't right the ship in what was a nice bounce-back spot against the Slingers. They took an absolute pummeling. That Matt Sharp and Rudolph in at QB, it was always going to be a worry, but they actually did all right, those two. Sharp 20, Rudolph 16. So, far from disgraced themselves, it was the rest of the team that didn't turn up. Todd Gurley continues to be the most curious case in the league. It just seems that while Rams are in contention for a playoff spot, they're going to continue. Maybe they're saving him for the playoffs after what happened last year, but his usage is just so low. Fournette did his usual thing, 17. Larry Fitz, I'm not quite sure why Larry Fitz is still getting a start. I think he had a disaster last week, 1 point. He turned in another 1 pointer this week in what was a difficult spot at New Orleans. I don't think he should be starting anymore. Tyler Lockett, did his thing again, always in the teens, it seems. And Hooper did his thing in the teens again. So, it was really just no big scores in there, 119 total. So, it wasn't the work. That's going to squeak you a win every now and then. But the one man that did get a 22 was David Montgomery. He was on the bench. But, it would have been a difficult start because he's been struggling great guns and no more than last week where he had an absolute disaster. But Chargers D can't stop the run, and there'd been so much rhetoric around the Bears and they've got to run the ball more. Trubisky can't pass it. They've got to run it more. You just heard that all week. So you did feel that he was going to get a lot of rock this week, Montgomery, and that certainly turned out to be the case. So, maybe you can play him then. I think he's worth a shout over Carlos Hyde, but Carlos Hyde was playing the Raiders, so that was a nice matchup. So, not going to castrate him for that one, but it turned out to be the wrong call. Turned out to not matter. Slingers turned up. They absolutely beat the brakes off him. This team's in a big spin. 2 losses on the bounce. They go into another team in a big spin next week. Saggy Punts. That's a must-win for the Punts, and you could argue it's a must-win for Kim Jong-fun just to stop this slide. This has got the makings of a crisis here. So that's a huge game next week. They're all big uns now. They're all biggies. But I really like this matchup. 3 losses on the bounce for the punts, 2 losses on the bounce for Kim Jong-fun. One of them will stop the rot next week.
Number 6 in our rankings, we find the man James Donovan. Shocking loss this week, it has to be said. We called it. We called it right here on the power rankings after his big, deliberate, prove it win against Tom Hedge last week. We're all very impressed. I was certainly very impressed by this win. Just going out there and in a big spot, just delivering a big win, putting the punts in a right spin. I was impressed. Chucked him up to 2 in the rankings, but I did say this Bedell's game worried me because this is just so classic Jadon, classic dinner at Dorsia. They're very Chargers-esque, and that might be a bit unfair on the Chargers. They just, when the spot is, just when you think everything's going right, it will be just that optimism before the fall, and the fall always is a spectacular one, and it proved it again this week. I mean, Bedell's absolutely, 6 on the bounce, 6 losses on the bounce, and do Bedell's come up with a big score to beat Jadon? No, of course they don't. They came up with their usual trifle, and Dorsia's failed to meet the call. I mean, they were missing some pieces. Phelan out, Elliott out, Lamar out. Those are 3 big pieces. I'll give him that. But I just didn't like I think he had Derek Carr came in, was a good pickup, did well. The Niners D got 17. I think those 2 combined for 40 of their 95 points. But big failure from their big pickup, Mohamed Sanu. And this was just the epicenter of what went wrong this week. Picks up Sanu. And for some unknown reason, I mean, this is just one of the most unbelievable decisions I can ever remember. He picks up Sanu, good pickup. I think a few guys might have been interested in Mohamed Sanu going to the Pats. And, it might still turn out for him there. It's a good situation. He's got to get bedded into what is a complicated offense, we know. But it wasn't the pickup or even starting Sanu. It was suddenly there was a logo change from a picture of Sammy Watkins, which is odd in itself because he's never been at dinner at Dorsia. So that was an odd logo to begin with. But then to change it to Sanu, prop him up as the face of your organisation. I mean, I've got insiders close to the team that have told me that did not go down well at all. And I'll certainly be digging a bit more into that. The locker room didn't like that. And of course the locker room didn't like that. They've been there slaving away, getting this team to 5-2, scoring points, and a guy that hasn't even played a down for Dorsia is suddenly the new face of the organisation. I mean, how do you think that's going to wash in your locker room? But anyway, as I said earlier, we're having a big interview with Dorsia. We've had a few technical issues, which means that interview will now be shown at the end of the show. So stay tuned to after we've talked about Bedell's. At the end of the show, we're going to have that exclusive Dorsia interview. It's going to be an absolute beaut of an interview. Stay tuned for that. In at number 7 in our rankings is Put the Kiddle On. Moving up to 7, they continue their ascent. 2 straight dubs for Put the Kiddle On, and what a dub this was against the Saggy Punts in a big spot. This was a big game for his continued revival. If he could catch up, now has the same record as the Saggy Punts, goes in at 3-5. Pulled out a W on his entire division with all the other LFC members losing this week, he gets to 2 wins behind. So interesting times for Put the Kid Line. Like I said, it was a big win, 179 to 109. He absolutely smashed the punts. Absolutely great stuff from PTKO. And Aaron Rodgers has got really hot. Trying to remember the scores, and I think he got 27. Dalton had an all right day, 17. More on him in a bit. Big Mike with another one of his big days, 37 points. I think he was the highest scorer amongst receivers this week. Also, we had Saquon had a nice day. I think he got 25. He's back to his best. Melvin got 10. Edelman with a big day on 23. So there was big scores all over the place. But there was also a big score left on the bench in Tevin Coleman. Went off for 36 points on the bench. If he'd played him over Melvin Gordon, which would have been a tough call, but Gordon has been struggling. He did get into the end zone for his first touchdown of the season this week. But if he had made that call, we'd be talking about a 200-point week for Put the Kid Line. That's what a big day they had. They also had Metcalf on the bench, who had a nice day with 14. So really an absolute cracking week for Jakey Boy and his lads. And they're looking red hot now. Red hot, steaming into a game next week with their division rival, Dubs and Tuds. We know the history here, the most one-sided matchup in Moo League history. It's currently at 12-3 in the Dubs and Tuds' favour. So, you know, big game for Jakey Lewis next week. And so, for sure, they're back in the playoff picture here. They could sneak in. Are they back in the LFC title race picture? Well, I'm going to say no for the following reasons. Because their advantage is they're 2 games behind 4 teams in their division. And they're going to play a lot of them. So they've got chances to pick up wins over those sides. But those sides are also going to be playing each other. So he's not going to have any more weeks kind of like this one where he picks up a dub over the whole of them, or like over all 4 of them, because they're going to be playing each other. One of them's going to be picking up a dub, and being 2 back on 4 teams, I just don't see him. He might make up that on 1 or 2 of the sides, but I don't see him making it up on all 4 sides. Our little dog there pissing me off. Yeah. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I don't see him picking up on the 2 dubs over all 4 sides. So I don't think he's a contender for that LFC title, but he's certainly contender for the playoffs, which is where he wants to be. Can he make his 2nd playoff campaign in their history? They're certainly in with a chance. I think they've got their boys back now, like I said, with Saquon and stuff. And I really liked Jakey Boy this week, what he did with Lloyd. I mean, you know, you see Jacob, question is, you know, commitment in the past. You don't see him as a big stats guy, someone who kind of really gets in there, does his homework maybe as much as he should. But when a comment was made, an unprovoked comment about Andy Dalton, he didn't just respond, he also had stats to back it up. Said, hey, you know, Dalton's, I think, has got more points than Josh Allen. Hey, Andy Dalton's got only 5 less points than Gardner Minshew. So if he'd gone out there and done that research and came out and defended his boy like that, you know, got to give him props for that. He's not just going to stand by and let Lloyd take pot shots at him. So really like that. Maybe it shows a new focus, a new determination from Jake Lewis, and he's certainly right back in this playoff picture. Big game against the Dubs and Tuds next week. Can they come overcome what's been a very one-sided battle in the last 7 years? Stay tuned for that. Down to number 8 in our rankings. Moving up is the Gunslingers, Chris Delaney's Gunslingers, and big win for them this week. 166 scored, very nice score, led by their QBs and their RBs. They put in a big win over the Pingers, which, yeah, that has got to be very satisfying for them. I think it was 166 to 119, so it wasn't close. Matt Stafford, big day, 23. Drew Brees is back, 24. Though he'll lose him next week on a bye, but that's great to see Drew back. He really needed Drew back, and he's back in style. Running backs also had nice days. Connor, 22. Aaron Jones, 38, sorry, I've forgotten. Big score from him in the mid to late 30s. And even Joe Mixon, I thought this was an unbelievable play, really. Joe Mixon, after what happened last week, where he was averaging about 3 inches a carry, he then goes at Rams. So he's running into Aaron Donald and co. And he puts him out there, and he got 15 points. So, yeah, maybe a bit of signs of life still for Mixon there. Who knows? A bit of a down day from his receivers. Chris Godwin only got 8. We know it was a big day for Mike Evans this week. So still maybe some opportunities to score even bigger scores. And you look at it for Delaney now, you know, I said his season was hanging by a thread. It continues to hang by a thread, but he's got a nice spot next week. He goes up against Bedell's, the 2 and 6 sides going head to head. But, you know, these sides, you know, that you say they're both 2 and 6, you think, oh, this is another House of Horrors, Halloween themed Grim Reaper Bowl. And I guess it kind of is, but I think Bedell's season's already done. You just look at these two sides and they're not yeah, their records are the same, but their talent is not the same. Bedell's is absolute trash, you know, hasn't scored, any points of any, note since week 1. And Delaney, look at them, I think they've scored on the season, I think they've got 10 more points than Dubs and Tuds, 2 more points than Dinner at Dorsia, 2 less points than the Pingers. So they're right in the mix in points scoring with those sides at 5 and 3, but they sit at 2 and 6. And the reason for that, as we've said before, is the consistency. It's great if you can score 166 and 170s, but if the other 5-6 weeks you're putting up hundreds, you're just not going to get it done that way. You've got to be more consistent. So if they're going to make this comeback, continue this comeback, they've got to find that consistency. They've got to raise that floor on their scoring. They might get away with one this week, get back to 3 and 6. Like I said, playing Bedell's. They'll be without Breeze, but, they should have enough to beat Bedell's this week. But yeah, it could be a big Halloween-themed week for Delaney as Bedell's comes to try and slay that season, bring death upon the Derange's Gunslingers 2019 campaign. So certainly an interesting game there. Bedell's looking for a second straight dub. He could do it. Like I said, if Delaney puts up one of his bad weeks, if Slingers have one of their bad weeks, then it could happen. So Slingers up to 8, they've given themselves, they're still just hanging on, but they remain 2 games back from that 6th place with that SFL win. The 6th place now stands at 4 and 4. Delaney's back at 2 and 6, so they need to keep on picking up dubs in order to close that gap. They didn't close the gap on the playoffs with this win. They stayed 2 wins back. Let's go down to 9 in the rankings. Another little point I forgot about our friend the Gunslingers. They did suffer a bit of an injury to James Conner. He had a nice day, but did leave the building in an arm sling. Not sure on the severity of that injury yet, but he'll certainly be monitoring it. That Steelers backfield has been absolutely decimated. I think Snell, Samuels, and now Connor have all been dealing with injuries as of late, so they'll certainly be tracking that one. That'll be a big piece to lose from his RB stable. Down to number 9 in our list. Number 9, we find the Saggy Punts. Oh dear, 3 straight L's have put this guy's season at critical status. Down now at 3 and 5. Still only 1 win off Lloyd Phillips in 6th, but where's his next dub coming from? They're on a real slide here, and he's got to be concerned. He's done a lot of tinkering, he's done a lot of trading. We're impressed with some of the moves, but it just hasn't resulted in good results. This week, you looked like they got absolutely smashed by Jake, which is certainly a game they would have circled as very winnable. But they got smashed. Yeah, they ran into Jake at the wrong time, but they didn't. Even if Jake could have put up a 125 and beat them. So you are kind of looking at it and thinking, it's just a bad week from them. They got nothing, no real points of note on the whole roster. No one over a 20. So just average scoring throughout. You look like the potential is still there, and this is why everyone will be, the rest of the league is laughing, because particularly the playoff teams in the playoffs, because they don't want the punts in there, that's for sure. Because you look at this roster, there still is potential. You've got Diggs, who's got it together now. He's a top 10 receiver at the moment. Then you've got Hill, who was out and was with Mahomes for half a game or a game before Mahomes left. He's not Matt Moore can't throw those deep bombs to Hill, so he's severely lost a lot of value. No one has lost more value from that Mahomes injury than Tyreek. And then you've got Davante Adams, who he still can't get on the field. I mean, when he went down, turf toe is one of those injuries. Like, you think, it's turf toe, but it can linger, and it's certainly lingering there for Adams. And you've got to think he traded for him, gave up Matt Ryan, who's had a good season, and someone else has slipped my mind right now, but you just haven't been able to get him on the field. So you've got to say that was a bad trade. But, the potential's there. If they can get those three on, Hill with Mahomes, Diggs in this new rich vein of form, and Davante Adams, you won't find a better trio of receivers in the league. So all of the league is hoping this continues for the punts. They continue to lose and they miss out on those playoffs, because we know they're a dangerous team when they get in there. Trying to think who he's got next week, and it's just slipping my mind at the moment. I think he's got Kim Jong next week. Yes, we talked about this earlier. Yeah, the two losing streaks going head to head. So, game against Kim Jong next week are having their problems of their own. So, Hedge needs to right this ship pretty soon. 3 straight losses. They got to get a score together. He did well. With the trades, with the changes he's made, but the results just haven't been there. He's been unfortunate with injuries, but we're talking about the most decorated GM in Moo League history, and they're not going to be at the dance as it stands. Great for the teams that will be there, because they can be dangerous. Down at the bottom of our list is our man Marcus Monday and his Roger Bedell's team. Picked up a W this week, which will be nice for them. Certainly gives their 2-6 is obviously looks a lot less embarrassing than 1-7. He breaks his 6-game losing streak. As we spoke, did he go out there and take it? No, he didn't. 107, that should be losing a lot of games, and will lose a lot of games, but it picked up a lucky dub this week. Down the roster, there's no star power on this roster. They ballsed up their top of their draft, and since then they just haven't been able to get the stars in. 18 points was the top score on the roster. 17 and 18 were their two top scores, both on the bench. 16 was the top score in their starting lineup. Garoppolo's score made me laugh this week. 49ers putting up 51 points. You thought, big day for the offense. Garoppolo scored 13. This team, this is going to be their role now. They're not going anywhere. But yeah, no, they'll look to play spoiler now, and they've certainly spoiled Dorsia's week, that's for sure. And then coming out with some explosive words in the aftermath of the game. You know, there's trash talk, there's smug talk, but this was some nasty, some borderline disrespectful comments. But on the one hand, I think it brings a bit of juice to the league, which we always like. Brings some talking points. I'm certainly going to be asking James Donovan what he thought about these comments from the Rook, to come out and just tear him a new one in the aftermath of the game while his team's lying face down in the dirt. I mean, certainly has some chops on him. And yeah, we like that. We like chops. We do like chops here at the Power Rankings. But they stayed down at number 10. But yeah, can they go and see off the Slingers next week? And, if they saw off the Slingers, would they have half a case to say, hang on, we're 3-6, we've got 2 straight dubs, and Slingers are 2-7. Would they have a case to say we shouldn't be bottom of the rankings? Maybe that's a case I'll have to answer. So keep on plugging away those Bedels, and see if you can score over 110 one week. Okay, that is almost everything for your Week 8 Power Rankings, but we do have a very special interview as promised. Been waiting to speak to this GM for a long time. It is, of course, the man James Donovan of Dinner at Dorsia in the aftermath of a very disappointing loss. Just want to again thank James for taking his time out to speak with us. We had some technical difficulties, which has made he's had to even dedicate more time to allowing us to have this interview. But I really think you're going to enjoy this one. Pulled no punches. Here it is, James Donovan sitting down with us here at the Power Rankings. See you in week 9. Okay, here we are on the Power Rankings. As promised, We've been waiting to have this guest on. It is the GM of Dinner at Dorsia, James Donovan. Welcome, James. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks very much, guys, and welcome to sunny Shoreditch today. Just on my way through, but I've been waiting for a long time to get on the show. I've got an axe to grind with a few things, so let's kick things off.
Oh, an axe to grind. That's what we like to hear. Obviously, we'll kick off with this week. A big loss to Bedels. Would you say humiliating is the right word?
I mean, to be losing to like a sack of shit like the Bedels, we are ashamed. I think it's probably the worst loss in Dorsia's history. I mean, fair play to the Boonies for putting up over 100 points for what was it, the 4th or 5th week. I mean, it's very, very embarrassing. And that's kind of where we stand on it.
Okay. Saying it's your worst loss of all time. I mean, God, there's definitely some contenders in there. But I want to just get on to what happened after. The rookie really spouting off.
Can I stop you there? What else do you expect from a spunky rook, right? He's been getting his ass pounded in the league since week 2. His wife's been giving him shit. It's nothing more than I expect from a young spunky rookie. But he hasn't got anything. He shouldn't have anything to say until he's got a winning record. I mean, but beyond that, I've loved having Marcus Mundy in the league. He's brought us all up a level a bit. His enthusiasm, his teariness when he's losing is really, really good. But on the whole, Mundy, watch your fucking mouth. The Jabroni Bowl will be coming round next year, and it's going to be on.
Okay, it seems you knew the quote I was talking about then. Very interesting. So, obviously, I want to get on to about what happened with the logo this week. You brought in Mohamed Sanu. He was propped up as the face of the organisation. I said at the time I thought it might cause some dissension in the locker room, and I've got some insiders, and I've heard a thing or two that it did cause some issues in the locker room, and Kirk Cousins in particular wasn't happy. Is it fair to say that he didn't like that?
No, he did not like that. He did not like that. No, it was it was a rash move. I mean, anybody who's been following Dorsey for the last 7 years know we're prone to a rash one. So just strike it down as a bit of that. I think Sanu, I mean, with the waivers going through, it will be gone. If the commissioner allows me, I will change my picture again. We might get the Lizard King back or someone new, but yeah, it was a risky move. It may come to cost me in the long run. But yeah, we have kind of cleaned things up with Kirk Cousins and hoping for like a good bounce back game this week.
Yeah, you just mentioned this week. You've got the Pingers. Big game.
Arch enemy. Arch enemies.
Arch enemy. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that? You've had a bit of a rival with the Pingers, you'd say, down the years?
I mean, throughout. I mean, it's ever present. Like tennis, football, NFL. The Pingers are our nemesis. You know, the ones we dislike the most, and the ones that it feels the best to beat them. You know, when he's giving you after the 6 o'clock game. Oh, I need fucking Marvin Jones to get me some points. Like, I wanna make this bitch feel like. I mean, we remember the time when we had a 30-point lead and then Ezekiel Elliott scored about 40 points in a half against us, and that hurts. But I want to be putting the hurt on Joe B this week. Back-to-back losses could really fuck him up.
Okay. Obviously, Joe B, he likes a bit of trash talk. He was trash talking this week. Do you want to fire the first shot, or are you going to wait for him to come at you?
I think I am rendezvousing with the owner of the Pingers later, so maybe we can discuss things through then. Hopefully the rankings will be uploaded by then, but he knows it's on. I mean, I think Lloyd said that he gave a bit of humble pie, but you cannot humble this guy. He's a monster. Like, you know, he's just non-stop relentless, and yeah, it doesn't matter what I say, but there will be shots fired come Sunday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, he's a monster, that is for sure. Couldn't agree more with that. Want to talk a bit about your relationship with the media, and in particular this show. I think in the past, or even this season, you felt like you've been treated a bit unfairly. Obviously, I've always reverted back to the record. You know, if I may, 4-10, 3-11, 3-11, 9-5, 6-8, 7-7, 6-8. So we're talking about one winning season in 7 seasons. I mean, how, you know, those are just the facts. That's not unfair treatment, I wouldn't say.
No, the facts are right. But you know, other facts includes that have you got any rings? Does Lloyd Phillips have any rings? You know, I'm talking. There's 7 owners in this league that don't have rings, and you know, a lot of people. But there's 9 other people who want to pipe up and put the big man down. Like, you know, and we feel that it's overt. You know, we were what, 3-0, and you know, did you place this third? Was it, or was it second? But you know, you like to go back to the history, but you don't see the upward keel that Dorsey are on, and you know, they tend to, you know, they tend to be put down, similar to like Raheem Sterling is, but we don't know where it comes from. Well, we do know where it comes from. It comes from you, but it's our job this season for the remainder of the Moo League to go on to kind of, you know, change this negative portrayals of us in the media.
Okay, well that's fair enough. I mean, we obviously like to, you know, report as fairly and as unbiasedly as possible here. I want to go back to something you said this week. I thought was right on point. There was a lot of GM tweet beef this week. You were surprisingly quiet when it was kicking off, but you kind of set the tone by saying, yeah, you can tell it's business time, and I couldn't have agreed more with that. But it was your next tweet that I want to ask you about, where you said there might be a meltdown this weekend. Was this weekend your meltdown?
No. I think we played it quite cool. We felt the loss was coming. Like, the matchups didn't look good for us. We had a lot of boys out on buys and through injuries. But no, the kind of the 2-page WhatsApp rants that we've seen from Lloyd Phillips before. Like, that is a meltdown. Or, you know, when like sheer silence from Joe B for a week when it's the middle of winter and, you know, you've not heard from him. You know, last seen on WhatsApp on like Tuesday and it is Saturday. Like, that is, what constitutes a meltdown. Like, I don't think we're close yet. I think, meltdowns are coming round the corner for sure.
Okay. Want to ask you, talking about your man there, Lloyd Phillips. You in the heat of Sunday's action, you tweeted out SFL are a little bitch franchise. Is there anything you want to add to that? Do you stand by it?
I stand by it. I mean, like, the guy talks a really good game. He's got £7.50 in his bank account, and he can't even come to watch the NFL on Sunday. Like, what more little bitch gets than that? Like, they were stacked. They've made a couple of good trades, and he talks all this and that. But the bottom line is he knows too much, right? And if they lose this week, they are fucked. Royally fucked.
Yeah, big match for them. But they're all big matches in the running here. Well, I just ask you, obviously, the rankings are strictly confidential until they go live, but obviously in the interest of, you believe in you should have been treated unfairly, I wanted to ask you, where do you think you should be? Where are you expecting to be in the power rankings this week?
So what we've got Phillips Senior up top, and then we're in a four-way tie for second place. Is that right, or is it three-way?
George up top, and then four-way tie.
Four-way tie. I mean, look. Losing to Bedell's, I can see myself slipping to fifth or sixth, to be honest. Just for the media hype, and everyone's going to want to get on Jadon's back. Like that's where I expect to see myself this week.
Okay, well, you'll have to find out later on tonight. Lastly, just wanted to close out. Obviously, thanks for coming on. I want to ask you about how you see this season playing out. Are you going to be in the playoffs, and what do you expect to see who's going to lift the trophy?
So I've got a vision, and it's of me lifting a Nick Chubb. So if I win the playoffs this year, if I go all the way, I go to the dance. Zeke is fucking on form, like Lamar Jackson's running in touchdowns, but I will have to get a Nick Chubb jersey. But the Chubb will say Chubb, and then it will say dash, and then on. So I'm gonna get my Chubb on and get me some fucking Super Bowl ring, because I want to be a ring bearer. It's what I want more than anything. Do I think I have the roster for that? I'm not sure. Could there be trades to improve my roster before the season's out? We don't know. But it's all still to play for, baby.
Whoa, a big statement. You heard it here first. James Donovan is calling himself for the win this year, backing himself. Didn't back himself to beat Bedell's this week, but backs himself for the championship. Very interesting stuff from James. Now, absolutely pleasure to have you on, James. Just want to thank you again for taking your time out to speak to us here on the Power.
Just stop you there. So, I mean, I think this week is a very big week. I mean, I can't choose the biggest matchup, but in terms of rivalries, and you touched on it with me and OB, I think the Jake and Turvey Bowl is one that has caused a lot of strain in the league before. And has the commissioner got any kind of statements coming into that?
Well, I'm just checking my rundown here, and this was not on it. But obviously, I'm going to have to take off my unbiased media hat for a second and put on my GM hat. It's obviously a bit jarring, but what I'll say about this week is you look at Kittle. He's had 2 wins. The Kittle's hot. The Kittle is hot, and I just say there's no better time to have a cup of tea. And that's how I see this matchup. He's a cup of tea. It's just a nice cup of tea. I've beat him 12-3. And that's the thing, is he is the best time to face him when he's hot, because has he ever won 3 in a row? Has he ever been able to piece these scores together? He has big weeks. He's had big weeks this season, but they're then followed up by a bad one. So I think this is the perfect time to face him, when he's on a hot streak, as it were.
And cool. I mean, that's a good point. And what do you think about Tom Hedge? He was hitting the bag hard this weekend. Anything about his season, and you see where that's going?
I never like to badmouth the GOAT, I guess we've got to call him. But he seems to have lost some of his touch. Obviously, he was 6-0 in playoffs. And I think since that first playoff loss, was it to George, maybe 2 years ago,
since then he just hasn't been the same. And I think he's made a lot of trades this year. We all started, fearing when we saw him trade, and we thought, oh, he's going to pull off another one, but it doesn't seem like he has pulled it off. Seems like he's made a bigger mess of things. I certainly don't want to meet him in the playoffs, that's for sure.
No, it's got a good record. And Toby, any idea when you'll be with us next in the UK, when we can get a bit of mood ball going? Any idea?
Definitely going to be back before Christmas. I think I fly in on the 13th of December. I'll be down in I forgot what the gardens are called in Lem, but definitely want a Moo Bowl, pre-Christmas Moo Bowl. I'm going to be enjoying being back for the foreseeable future.
Great. Well, fantastic to be on the show. Maybe some quite funny comms coming on Sunday evening, as we are going to get lit up at Wembley. So yeah, see you then, guys. Take care.
Enjoy Wembley, James, and thank you to all the viewers on the Power Rankings. I will see you all next week for Week 9 Power Rankings. Thanks again, James.
See you. Bye.